Welcome to This Explainer. Let's set the scene. It is December 1952, right in the heart of London. Winter has firmly arrived. Families are preparing for Christmas, kids are out playing in the chilly streets, and absolutely nothing seems unusual. It's a bustling, iconic metropolis just going about its everyday business. But lurking just out of sight was an impending catastrophe that would change the world forever. Within a matter of hours, that totally ordinary winter day completely vanished. A sudden, thick yellow fog descended on the city, and almost instantly, London's transport just froze in its tracks. Buses simply stopped dead, drivers couldn't see the roads, they couldn't see the intersections, they couldn't even see the hoods of their own vehicles. The vibrant, non-stop motion of London was completely choked out. It got so bad so fast that visibility plummeted. People walking outside literally couldn't see their own feet. And as the fog thickened into this impenetrable, toxic wall, cars crashed. Vehicles were colliding blindly on the streets, turning intersections into tangled wrecks of metal. The city wasn't just slowing down, it was violently crashing to a halt under the sheer weight of this suffocating atmosphere. But here's the terrifying part. Traffic grinding to a halt? That was just the beginning. The true horror of this invisible killer was about to reveal itself across the paralyzed city, because thousands began to die. This wasn't just a severe weather event, it was a mass casualty incident unfolding in slow motion, right behind closed doors and on darkened streets. At first, nobody understood what was happening, but the death toll was quietly, ruthlessly climbing. Part 1. The Invisible Threat. The anatomy of a tragedy. So we really have to ask, how does a massive, modern city just suffocate? What turned a perfectly normal winter into a deadly trap? To understand how an everyday element transformed into one of the deadliest environmental disasters in modern history, we need to step back and look at the very foundation of the city itself. Part 2. A city of smoke. Dependent on coal. Okay, to really understand this trap, we first have to look at the baseline environment of 1950s London. The entire city was, frankly, addicted to coal. Homes burned it just to survive the freezing winter, factories were burning it for massive industrial energy, and enormous power stations pumped endless, continuous, thick smoke right into the atmosphere. We're talking millions of chimneys exhaling toxic fumes into the sky every single minute of the day. And you know what's wild? Culturally, the public completely accepted this pollution. They actually had a casual, almost affectionate nickname for the thick fogs that regularly blanketed their city. They called them pea supers. They were so used to this smog that they gave it a cute little moniker, totally unaware of the impending danger gathering right above their heads. Part 3. The trap closes. An everyday nightmare. But on December 5th, those cute pea supers were replaced by a suffocating blanket of death. The villain in our story is a very specific meteorological event called a temperature inversion. Basically, this is where a cold weather system settles in and traps polluted air tightly against the ground. Imagine a giant, invisible lid being placed directly over London, sealing all of that toxic coal smoke right inside. And this is the exact anatomy of our invisible killer. Step 1, a static, cold weather system settles over the region. Step 2, the inversion acts like a lid, trapping the newly generated, highly polluted air dangerously close to the ground. And then step 3, the fatal blow. Absolutely zero wind. With no wind to clear it away, the toxic smoke just builds and builds rapidly. The trap was shut. Part 4. Total paralysis. The city suffocates. Within hours, this atmospheric trap successfully suffocated what was then the world's most bustling metropolis, leading to total societal collapse. In the transportation sector, trains stopped running, flights were grounded, and cars were just abandoned in the middle of the road. In entertainment, concerts were canceled because the toxic smoke literally seeped into sealed buildings, making indoor theater stages invisible. And most terrifyingly, in healthcare, ambulances stalled out on blinded streets, while emergency rooms became completely overwhelmed with gasping patients. Doctors were entirely baffled by this invisible siege. Part 5. The Lethal Aftermath. A silent massacre. While the city ground to a staggering halt, the human cost was quietly, desperately compounding. The smog ruthlessly targeted the vulnerable. Children and the elderly were hit the absolute hardest. People with pre-existing asthma and heart conditions suffered terribly. Citizens were literally suffocating in their own living rooms, while others just collapsed right on the streets. The air was so deeply toxic that even prize-winning livestock at indoor agricultural exhibitions choked to death. And tragically, the authorities drastically underestimated the true scale of the disaster as it was happening. 12,000. By the time the fog finally lifted 5 days later and the wind returned to blow the poison away, an estimated 12,000 people had lost their lives. 12,000 mothers, fathers, children, and grandparents wiped out by the very air they were breathing. So, December 5th, 1952, the trap shuts. By December 10th, the fog lifts, revealing the horrifying reality of the thousands dead. The sheer, undeniable scale of this horror finally sparked massive national public outrage. And it was this outrage that forced a monumental legal shift, the passing of the Clean Air Act in 1956. This historic legislation heavily restricted urban coal use, it encouraged cleaner fuels, and ultimately it saved millions of future lives. The tragedy finally forced society to look up at the smoke. Which leaves us with one final vital question. Are the most dangerous threats the ones we cannot see? Think about it. This incredibly deadly disaster wasn't an earthquake, it wasn't a catastrophic flood, and it wasn't an act of war. It was just ordinary pollution. It was something people had casually lived with for generations. As we wrap up this explainer, it really leaves us to wonder just how vulnerable we remain to the invisible world we breathe every single day. Keep your eyes open, and thank you for exploring this dark chapter of history with me.